In the dimly lit corridors of a gleaming skyscraper, where the city's elite sealed deals worth millions, a single dad named Mike Thompson, clad in his faded janitor's uniform, knelt over the convulsing body of billionaire tycoon Alexander Harlan. With no one else around in the dead of night, Mike's hands trembled as he performed CPR, his lips pressing desperately against the stranger's in a life-saving breath. As Harlan's eyes fluttered open, gasping for air, Mike whispered, "Hang on, sir. Help's coming." But what happened next would shatter both their worlds forever, revealing a secret that had been buried for decades. Stick around, because this isn't just a story of survival, it's a tale that will make you question everything you know about fate, family, and forgiveness. The siren wailed in the distance, growing louder, but Mike's mind raced faster. Had he done enough? Would this man, this symbol of untouchable wealth, even remember the janitor who pulled him back from the brink? Little did Mike know, this desperate act was about to unravel a web of lies that connected their lives in ways unimaginable. And just as the paramedics burst through the doors, Mike Thompson wasn't always a janitor scrubbing floors in the Harlan Tower, the crown jewel of Alexander Harlan's real estate empire. Born in a small town on the outskirts of Chicago, Mike had dreamed big once. He was the high school quarterback with a scholarship to college, a loving high school sweetheart named Sarah, and a future that seemed as bright as the city lights he longed to conquer. But life has a way of derailing dreams. Sarah got pregnant right after graduation, and Mike chose love over ambition, marrying her and taking a factory job to provide. Their daughter, Lily, arrived like a burst of sunshine, with her mother's curly hair and Mike's infectious smile. For a while, it was perfect: family dinners, bedtime stories, and weekends at the park. Then, tragedy struck. Sarah was diagnosed with cancer when Lily was just 5. The treatments drained their savings, and Mike worked double shifts, but it wasn't enough. Sarah passed away on a rainy Tuesday, leaving Mike a hollow shell of a man, raising Lily alone. He moved to the city for better opportunities, but the best he could land was the night janitor gig at Harlan Tower. It paid the bills, barely, and allowed him to be home during the day for Lily, now 10, who was starting to show signs of the same illness that took her mother. Doctors said it was genetic, a rare blood disorder, and the treatments? They cost a fortune Mike didn't have. Every night, as he mopped the marble floors, he whispered prayers for a miracle, his calloused hands aching from the labor, his heart heavy with worry. Alexander Harlan, on the other hand, lived in a world Mike could only glimpse through the spotless windows he cleaned. Harlan was the self-made billionaire, ruthless in boardrooms, building an empire from nothing. Or so the magazine said. At 65, with silver hair and piercing blue eyes, he commanded respect, and fear. His days were filled with mergers, his nights with lavish parties or solitary reflections in his penthouse office. But beneath the facade, Harlan carried his own burdens. He'd lost his wife young too, in a car accident that haunted him. And there was a son he'd given up for adoption decades ago, a decision born from youthful panic and pressure from his ambitious family. Harlan had searched for him sporadically over the years, but the trails went cold. Lately, his health had faltered. A weak heart, the doctors warned, exacerbated by stress and isolation. He ignored it, pushing through late-night work sessions, convinced vulnerability was for the weak. That fateful night, Harlan had stayed late, reviewing a deal that could make him even richer. As he paced his office, chest tightening, he collapsed in the hallway, clutching his Armani suit. The building was empty except for the janitor on the lower floors. Mike, finishing his rounds, heard the thud echo through the vents. He rushed up, finding Harlan blue-lipped and unresponsive. Without hesitation, Mike dropped his mop and started CPR, the skills he'd learned from a free community class years ago kicking in. Chest compressions, breaths, desperate, life-giving kisses of air. Harlan sputtered back, and as the paramedics arrived, Mike faded into the background, just another shadow in the night. The next morning, Mike woke to Lily's gentle shake. "Dad, you're on the news," she exclaimed, her pale face lighting up. The local stations were buzzing. Janitor saves billionaire's life in dramatic late-night rescue. Harlan, from his hospital bed, demanded to meet his savior. Mike, reluctant but hopeful, maybe a reward could help with Lily's treatments, agreed to visit. As he entered the private suite, Harlan's eyes widened. You look familiar," the billionaire muttered, his voice weak but sharp. Their first meeting was awkward, charged with unspoken gratitude. Harlan thanked Mike profusely, offering a check for $50,000 on the spot. "It's the least I can do," he said. Mike's eyes filled with tears. It was enough for Lily's first round of meds. But as they talked, sharing snippets of their lives, a strange connection sparked. Harlan mentioned his lost son, adopted out at birth. Mike spoke of his own adoption as a baby, never knowing his biological parents. Dates aligned, places matched. Harlan's face paled. "This can't be," he whispered. Tests were ordered, DNA rushed through Harlan's connections. As Mike waited for results, his life spiraled. Lily's condition worsened, she fainted at school, needing hospitalization. Mike juggled shifts, bills piling up, the $50,000 a temporary bandage on a gaping wound. Friends urged him to sue for more, but Mike refused. He wasn't in it for money. Meanwhile, Harlan, recovering, obsessed over the possibility. If Mike was his son, what then? Redemption? Or more pain from years lost? The results came in a sealed envelope, delivered to Harlan's mansion where Mike was invited for dinner. As they sat across a table laden with food Mike could never afford, Harlan opened it with shaking hands. Positive. Mike was his biological son. The room spun. Mike stared, disbelieving. "How? Why?" he stammered. Harlan broke down, confessing, as a scared 20-year-old, he'd fathered a child with a woman who insisted on adoption. He'd built his empire to prove himself worthy, but regret gnawed at him. Now, fate had brought them together through a desperate act. But joy was short-lived. Harlan's business rivals, sensing weakness post-heart attack, plotted a takeover. Whispers of Harlan's softening spread, stocks dipped. And then, a shocking revelation, Harlan's late wife had known about the child and left a hidden clause in her will. If the son was found, he inherited half the empire. Rivals uncovered this, launching legal battles to discredit Mike as a fraud. Accusations flew. Mike had staged the rescue for gain. Paparazzi hounded him. Lily's school became a circus. Mike's world crumbled. He lost his job when the building management caved to pressure. Cliffhanger 1. As Mike stood in the rain outside the hospital, watching Lily through the window, a shadowy figure approached with an envelope. "This changes everything," the man said. Inside? Proof that Harlan's empire was built on stolen ideas from Mike's adoptive father's old business, ideas Harlan had buried to rise to power. If revealed, it could destroy them both. Mike's hand hovered over his phone to call Harlan, but doubt crept in. Mike confronted Harlan that night in the penthouse. "Is this true? Did you ruin my adoptive family?" Harlan admitted partial truth. Early in his career, he'd outmaneuvered competitors, including Mike's adoptive dad, who owned a small real estate firm. It wasn't theft, Harlan insisted, just business. But the guilt weighed heavy. "I can make it right now," he pleaded. Together, they faced the rivals in court. Mike, reluctant heir, testified to his genuine intentions, his love for Lily shining through. The judge ruled in their favor, but not without cost. Harlan had to divest parts of his company, humbling him. Emotional bonds deepened. Harlan met Lily, bonding over stories of her grandmother, his late love. He funded her treatments fully, and as she recovered, the trio formed a fragile family. Mike taught Harlan humility, volunteering together at shelters. Harlan showed Mike the ropes of business, offering him a real role, not just inheritance. Yet challenges persisted. Lily's illness relapsed during a family trip, testing their unity. In the hospital, Mike and Harlan argued fiercely. Mike blaming stress from the Empire's chaos, Harlan defending his legacy. Reconciliation came when Lily, weak but wise, said, "Family isn't about money or past mistakes. It's about being there now." They pulled through, her recovery a symbol of their healing. Another twist shocked them. A half-sibling emerged, Harlan's daughter from a secret affair, resentful and suing for her share. She accused Mike of being an imposter, dredging up old pains. Cliffhanger 2. During the trial, evidence surfaced that Harlan had known about Mike years ago but chose not to reach out, fearing rejection. As the gavel fell, suspending the case, Mike walked out, heartbroken, whispering to Harlan, "Was I ever really wanted?" The courtroom doors slammed shut, leaving uncertainty hanging like a storm cloud. Resolution came through therapy and truth. Harlan confessed his fears, and the half-sibling, Elena, softened upon meeting Lily. They settled out of court, dividing assets fairly. Mike declined full inheritance, starting a foundation for single parents instead, using his story to inspire. Harlan retired, focusing on family, his heart stronger in more ways than one. Years passed. Lily thrived, becoming a doctor herself. Mike and Harlan traveled, mending lost time. The desperate kiss that started it all became legend, a reminder that heroes wear uniforms of all kinds. In the end, this story isn't just about a janitor and a billionaire. It's about how one act of kindness can rewrite destinies, heal wounds, and prove that family is found in the most unexpected places. No matter your struggles, remember, your desperate moment might be someone's miracle. If this tale touched your heart, hit that like button and subscribe for more inspiring stories that remind us of the power of humanity. Thanks for watching. But wait, let's dive deeper into Mike's early days to truly understand the man behind the mop. Growing up in foster care before adoption, Mike learned resilience young. His adoptive parents, Tom and Linda Thompson, were kind but poor, running a mom-and-pop real estate agency in the suburbs. Tom taught Mike the value of hard work, showing him how to fix leaky roofs and negotiate fair deals. Integrity over profit, Tom always said. But when Harlan's rising company undercut them with aggressive tactics, buying out properties at inflated prices and flipping them, the Thompsons lost everything. Tom died of a broken heart, or so Linda said, passing soon after from illness. Mike, just 18, was left to fend for himself, vowing never to become like the corporate sharks who destroyed his family. Fast forward to Mike's marriage with Sarah. Their wedding was simple, a backyard affair with string lights and homemade cake. Sarah, an artist, painted murals in their tiny apartment, filling it with color amid the gray of factory life. Lily's birth was joyous, but Sarah's diagnosis cast a shadow. Mike remembered the nights holding her hand during chemo, whispering promises of forever. Her last words? "Take care of our girl, Mike. And find happiness again." He buried her under a willow tree, visiting weekly with Lily, sharing stories to keep her memory alive. At Harlan Tower, Mike's routine was monotonous but meditative. He'd start at midnight, polishing elevators where executives never glanced his way. One night, he found a lost wallet stuffed with cash, Harlan's, as it turned out. Mike returned it untouched, earning a nod from security but nothing more. Little acts like that defined him, helping a stranded coworker with a flat tire, sharing his lunch with homeless folks outside. Colleagues called him Saint Mike, but he shrugged it off. Just doing what's right. Harlan's world was polar opposite. His mansion overlooked the city, filled with art but empty of warmth. Nights alone, he'd pour scotch and stare at old photos, his wife, Amelia, radiant in her youth. The accident that took her? A drunk driver, but Harlan blamed himself for arguing with her that day. The adopted son haunted him too. Private investigators had traced leads, but always dead ends. Health scares mounted, doctors prescribed rest, but Harlan scoffed. Empires don't build themselves. The night of the collapse, Harlan had ignored chest pains, fixated on a hostile bid from rival Victor Kane, a cutthroat mogul eyeing Harlan's throne. As he fell, his last thought was regret, not for deals, but for love lost. Post-rescue, Harlan's hospital stay was a wake-up call. Nurses buzzed about the hero janitor, and Harlan, for the first time, felt genuine debt. Inviting Mike, he expected a humble man. Instead, he saw echoes of himself. Strong jaw, determined eyes. Conversations flowed, Mike's losses mirrored Harlan's. When Mike mentioned his birth date and adoption agency, Harlan's pulse raced. The DNA weight was agonizing. Mike confided in Lily, who dreamed of a rich grandpa, but worried about change. "Will he like me, Dad?" she'd ask. Mike assured her, but inwardly feared rejection. Confirmation night, tears, hugs, questions. Harlan showed baby photos, Mike as an infant. "I named you Alexander Jr., he said. Mike laughed through sobs, "Guess Mike suits me better." Rivals struck fast. Kane leaked stories, janitor con artist infiltrates billionaire's life. Mike's apartment was vandalized, Lily bullied online. Mike considered walking away, but Lily's plea, "We need family, Dad," kept him fighting. The envelope in the rain? From a whistleblower, detailing Harlan's early shady deals. Mike confronted, and Harlan owned up, "I was young, ruthless. But I changed." They exposed Kane's own crimes, turning the tide. Lily's relapse hit during a celebratory cruise. Alarms blared as she collapsed on deck. Rushed to a hospital, doctors stabilized her, but Mike lashed out at Harlan, "Your world did this." Harlan, tearful, replied, "No, son. Life did. But we'll face it together." Elena's emergence, a fiery lawyer, she stormed into a family dinner, papers in hand. "Dad's mine too." Tests confirmed. Jealousy flared, Elena saw Mike as a threat. Court battles ensued, unearthing Harlan's affair during his marriage, a betrayal to Amelia's memory. The suspended trial cliffhanger resolved when Elena found old letters from Harlan, expressing love for both children. She dropped the suit, joining the family. "I was angry at being hidden," she admitted. Mike welcomed her, room for more. The foundation, Thompson-Harlan Hope, aided families like Mike's old one. Mike spoke at events, his story viral. Harlan, in speeches, credited Mike. "My son saved me twice, once with a kiss, once with forgiveness." Lily's wedding years later, Mike walked her down the aisle, Harlan beaming as grandpa. Elena stood as maid of honor. In toasts, Mike said, "Life's desperate moments lead to beautiful ones." And so, from a janitor's desperate kiss to a family's unbreakable bond, this tale reminds us, kindness echoes eternally, bridging divides, healing hearts. Never underestimate the power of one compassionate act. It might just save a life, or redefine it.